It's still just barely good morning, but it's still a good morning. And I'm still surviving the 80s, but you know, some days I just feel like I'm probably 81. And other days, maybe 83. But when I moved here when I was 74, I was milking goats until we moved here. And I really miss milking, actually. But I think if I had it to do over again, I'd get one of those nice little cows. When I grew up, we had a Guernsey cow, and I can never remember a milk stanchion. My dad would just go out and wherever the cow was, I guess. I think the cow came up close to where he milked every day, and it would just stand there and my dad would milk it. And I looked it up, and it was one of those cows that have that good kind of milk that they're talking about nowadays, type A or B or whatever they are. And so I grew up with that kind of milk. And then after we got married, I became milk intolerant for years and years. And just recently, I found out I can do milk. But what I do is kefir, and I just love kefir. But I'm not going to talk about that this morning. The reason I guess I talked about milking and these goats, when I was about 72, and I don't know if you know too much about goats, but I know some of you do. They're very smart animals, and they're devious, and they think of all sorts of little tricks they can do. One day, they locked my husband up in the chicken house. They did. And I didn't hear him call for help, and he finally had to crawl out that little chicken door, and chicken doors usually aren't very big, but he got out, and I bet they were just having the biggest laugh. Well, one day after I had milked, and I think my goats had sort of looked at the latch really good and taken it all in, and I went in and strained the milk, got it cooled down, put it in the refrigerator. I tried to ice my milk really fast. And by the way, where we lived, milk comes out of a goat at 94 degrees. Sometimes it would freeze to the side of the bucket while I was milking. But anyway, those goats got into my milk room, and that's where I kept all the good grain, you know, the rolled oats and the molasses and all the goodies, and they wanted to get into that. And they all got in there, so when I got back out, here is my milk room, all full of goats. Hardly room for me to get in, and I pushed and I shoved, and I can remember taking my knee and just pushing them with my knee. Well, about the next day or so, I got up, and we had a big dog, about 100-pound dog. Oh, she was a sweet dog. And she came up, and she sort of bumped my left leg, and the pain was excruciating. Anyway, I had torn my meniscus. Well, it tells me every once in a while about it still. And that's when I know it's time to start my herbs again. And what I do, and that's what I'm going to show you today, because yesterday it really began to talk to me. And herbs, there's some of them that are just full of calcium, iron, phosphorus, magnesium, on, very high. And I want to extract it out, and I want to do it fast, well, fairly fast. So what I do, and nettles is extremely high in calcium, extremely high in minerals. So that's my go-to. And I want to get about an ounce, so I'm going to put it over here on my scale. And I've got Okay, I've got about not, not quite an ounce. And then I'm going to put in linden. Nettles is drying, but linden is moistening. And it's very good for the heart. It's a heart-healthy herb. And I'm going to put in, it's got 80% of nettles, and it's going to, oh, it's a little over, and about 30% of linden. Okay, so that's the herbs. You know, I usually put this on here and fill my jar. But, so I'm going to do it backwards, but I'm going to get something where I don't pour it all over the... Okay. And it'd been much simpler if I'd done it the way I usually do it. There. Okay. Now, it's all ready to go. And I'm going to put it back. I'm putting it in this kettle just because it's a safeguard in case I break my jar. I don't want hot water, boiling water, running all over my counter and floor. Okay. Now I have water on. You don't need to have it boiling. You could be just under the boiling would actually be better. And I'm going to pour it in here now. Fill my quart jar. So it looks like I'm making tea, but it's called an infusion. And tea is also an infusion. Okay. The only difference is when we have a cup of tea, oh, we maybe steep it anywhere from 3 to 10 minutes, at the most probably 10 minutes. Herbs take longer to steep than regular black tea. But this is going to sit for a minimum of 4 hours. And this water is going to extract all of those goody things out. And then I'll drink this quart full of my mineral formula. And how does it taste? Well, not like chocolate ice cream. And when I first did it, I've taken 6 years of herb classes. When I first did it, I had a little bit of a hard time with the taste, but you know, the more I drink it, the more I like it, because probably the more my body wants it. Now I have a glass in the refrigerator. I thought I'd show you. Now if you try this, what might help you if you have a hard time with the taste, add a little honey to it. Or put a little mint in with your nettles, and you'll get the goodness out of mint.